Welcome to Conspiracy. I'm Taylor,
And I'm Sammy.
and we're here to unpack and analyze the world's best conspiracy theories. So buckle up and let's jump in. Okay, welcome back to the podcast. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good, other than the fact that we are currently in a hoarder's haven.
Oh my god. We had to move our grandpa from his condo into like a assisted living kind of place. And so we've cleaned out his condo and it's very overwhelming in our house right now.
Like where we're recording right now,
There is not space to move.
there's just shit everywhere. We'll have to take a picture and upload it along with this episode
Oh my god.
because we are in like mounds. But, it's really good for the sound quality because we're going to
Yes.
get a lot of absorbing sounds. We aren't going to get any echo or anything. So that aspect, I'm feeling pretty good.
You're not wrong about
But
that.
the rest of this, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm like sitting here and I'm like, oh, eventually we're gonna have to like video record our podcast so they can actually see us. And right now, that's not the vibe. We can't do that right now because it's so unsettling to look at.
Yeah, like aesthetics, it's not there. But, sound quality,
Yeah.
pristine.
Season 2, we'll have a nice little area that we can record our podcast and we'll video it so you guys can actually see us when we're talking. So
That'll be interesting.
it
Oh, because we do not. Literally, we're recording this at 8:30 at night. And
On a Sunday.
We're right before, because we teach tomorrow.
yeah.
So we are not looking our finest. We are like showered and ready to jump into bed after this.
Yeah, we're gonna like literally head upstairs. We're in our basement right now. No, we normally record like a Friday or Saturday.
Usually like middle of the weekend, not the
Yeah.
end. But I was
And-
like, we got to get the episode in.
Yeah, I gotta get it in, squeeze it there. So we're doing it on a Sunday at 8:30.
That's what's
So,
up.
Before we jump into this week's podcast, I think it's only fair that we update our fans. Hopefully, we have fans by this point. On the toothpaste.
Oh yeah, did you look some more stuff up?
No.
Oh no, our pictures.
We did an experiment. Literally, we finished the podcast last weekend. We went right upstairs and we had 8 different toothpastes?
Yeah, like kind of 50-50 with like Colgate, Crest,
I think we had
Aquafresh. And then I
still sucks.
I think it was Aquafresh and then like Colgate or Crest.
Yeah.
And the only ones that had glitter were the Crest ones.
Yeah. Well, and mind you, it was Crest 3D whitening because we tried the one
Yeah.
Crest scope.
Like
there
the
was
regular,
nothing.
The regular Crest, you couldn't really see any glitter. It was just like paste.
Yeah.
But those 3D white ones, and I don't know if it's the glittery specks that help like scratch excess plaque or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I'm a little
That
disappointed
they would need to
'cause
have glitter in those.
That's the kind of toothpaste I love and I use every day.
Or at least something that appears to look like glitter. Because I don't necessarily know for a fact that it's glitter. It's just a
Yeah.
conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've bought in, and every morning and every night when I stand in the dim light of my bathroom and I see it glisten in the light, I'm just a little bit heartbroken.
call the Colgate and Crest factories.
Oh, just be like, you guys, I need to know, is this glitter? Like, peace of mind, I need it. I think that's all we have for updates. We're gonna put some pictures of the toothpaste thing on our website.
We'll get an
and
awesome picture of us in our
hoard-
crowded atmosphere.
in our hoarder mess right now until we get everything sorted out and donated or sold. All right, so let's jump into the podcast.
Let's go.
This week, we're going to take a deep dive into the disappearance of Amelia Earhart.
Oh, this will be good. And I know you love her.
I love Amelia Earhart. I have a huge interest in flying and aircraft and all of that.
I am super invested in this one.
Definitely one of my favorite cases that's out there. I like that it's kind of like a conspiracy, but also a little bit of true crime in
It's
there.
a little like murder mystery kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, did she land somewhere and then get murdered, or did she crash
Mhm.
her plane?
What's
There's
going on?
there's lots of stuff to this one, and I like this one.
This is a case that I've watched like numerous things on YouTube. Me and you, I force you to watch things about her all the time because it's just someone I'm very enthralled with.
Well, I think Ryan and Shane from BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive they did something on this one, and that's where I kind of like heard the
Mhm.
inklings of like, okay, they could have happened to this. This could have happened.
Yeah, they did a BuzzFeed Unsolved episode for their true crime season when they were still with BuzzFeed. And I think that, I mean, I had kind of a little obsession with her prior to that, but it just really fed into that. And I'm like all about it now.
Yeah.
But before we get into her actual disappearance, there was a lot about her I did not know.
Really? Like her as a person?
Her as a person, I'm going to give you the background of this woman's life, and you are going to walk away utterly shocked by just this life of this woman.
Because how old was she when she actually took her flight? Like the around the world. Was she like 20s or was she much older?
I want to say it was her late 20s. So she was born in 1897. and the flight was in 1928.
1897.
So that would have been
07.
No. 97, 07, 17, almost 41 years. 41?
Okay.
If I'm doing that math right. Anyways, she was older. I thought she was a little younger than that, but
Like
I guess
early
not.
40s.
Yeah.
Well, it was back in freaking 1800s. Like,
yeah. And
you
when
weren't
we get
having 20-year-olds flying planes back then.
and when we get to the flight stuff, there was like a lot of other records I didn't realize she broke. But I want to talk about her life first because holy crap, this woman lived the most full life of anyone I've ever heard about. So Amelia Earhart was born on July 24th of 1897 in Kansas. I can't pronounce the city that she lived in. It's Atchison. Itchison?
I don't know. if I don't see the word, I can't read it.
Itchison, I'm going to call it, but it's a weird name, but she was in Kansas. Amelia was had a very full life. And most people described her as a very independent and adventurous spirit, like from the time she was little until the time she grew up. Her young childhood was all right. Her dad had a decent job by the sound of it, and her mom took care of the family. However, her life kind of took a rough turn when her grandparents died. Her dad became like an alcoholic.
Oh, that's a bummer.
That was the
On
one
a
hard
kid's
thing.
life, that it makes it really, really tough.
Yeah. So dad.
How old was that? Did it say?
It didn't give an exact age, but it said like middle school to high school.
Okay.
So like
you're still young.
She lived her her elementary years, and were super fine and successful there. And then grandparents passed, and then the family just kind of had a downward spiral.
Okay.
Dad struggled, like I said, with alcohol. Then they started to move around a lot. This woman, I swear to God, has lived in every city of every state in the entire world. She's been everywhere. So it kind of takes a little bit of a jump. It doesn't talk too much about like
her high school years.
No.
Kinda? Okay.
It just kind of jumps and goes. She finally graduated, and she was living in Chicago at the time. She ended up
by herself or with her family.
Her family was there.
Okay,
That was kind of like the final place they had moved to.
I didn't know if like she graduated and then moved out or.
No, well, she graduated and then moved out very quickly. So she graduated in Chicago and quickly moved to Pennsylvania to go to college. I want to say she went to Penn State. I should have put that in here, but didn't. Amelia started college, but on a trip to see her sister, and her sister, I want to say, was living in Canada at the time, she found a new love for taking care of wounded soldiers. War was really huge back then.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say her sister had a job in that field, so when she went to visit her sister, she was kind of like, oh, like this is kind of neat. So she abandoned college altogether, became a nurse, and assisted in the recovery and well-being of soldiers.
Okay. I mean, like you said, war was kind of big at that point.
And so I think her sister, I want to say her sister was in that field. She found a new love for it, quit college, didn't finish it with any degree, became a nurse, which was kind of weird to me because you need a nursing degree.
Well, maybe not at the time.
But
they were probably hurting for hands at that point.
Yeah, so she ended up going into that. When the war kind of came to a close, her nurse...
So did she have to move to Canada then?
I want to say she moved to wherever her sister was, yes, in Canada. So again, another move. When the war was coming to a close, her nursing job obviously was going to be phased out because you just didn't need them. So Amelia went back to college, only this time in New York. So again, another move to a new place. Soon after, Amelia moved to California because her parents had convinced her that it was time to just come home and be with family.
So was family in California then at that point?
Mom and Dad had left Chicago and gone back to California.
All right.
I want to say California was one of the places they had lived prior to her graduating high school. Like I said, they were everywhere.
So I guess it was a home.
Yeah. So they're like, it's just come home and be with your family. You shouldn't be a single woman out there living on your own. So she abandoned college once again.
God damn.
Went back to California to be with her parents. And this is where she took her very first flight and found her passion. Many people describe it as like it was love at first flight. That's a Netflix movie. Just watched it like last week when it came out.
Cheesy as hell.
It's really good. Emotionally draining though. I don't want to spoil it. Is it
about Amelia Earhart?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm just saying I have love at first flight in here, but the movie, it's a sad. It's not a rom-com.
Okay.
It's really cute. It's a romance, but it's tugging at your heartstrings. Sidetrack, sorry. But it said it was like love at first flight. She just fell in love, and then she was like, this is my job. I'm going to be a pilot. So she took her first flight in 1920. She then, in 1921, before she even had her pilot's license, bought a plane.
Get it, girl?
She's like, I'm going to do this.
She knew what she was up to.
Pedal to the metal. So she finished flight school and was done by 1922 and had her pilot's license. By the mid-1920s, it didn't really give exact timing, Amelia moved back to the West Coast, to Boston, Massachusetts.
She probably flew there in her own freaking plane.
I wouldn't doubt it. Where she became a social worker.
God, this bitch has had more, careers than I will have in my entire life.
Literally, as I'm going through her life, I'm like, okay, she's moved literally everywhere. She's had every job known to man. It's the busiest, and we're not even done. So,
and she's still, pretty young. She's
at this point,
20s right now.
Yeah, she's not that old. So she became a social worker, and she assisted immigrants that were coming to America to settle here.
Okay.
So I want to say she worked specifically in, an immigrant house.
She's definitely a helper.
Yes. She was, a huge humanitarian and, wanted to do the greater good.
A lot of pupil services going on here.
Yeah. But now we're going to kind of get into her pilot background and that kind of information. So the year's 1928, the U.S. was searching for the first woman that would fly nonstop across the Atlantic Ocean. The year prior was the first time a man had done it. So it was...
in a teeny little measly plane?
In a tiny little prop plane.
Bro, I would be terrified.
Because, commercial travel wasn't
not
huge.
a thing.
You just didn't
you traveled
do it.
by ship if you traveled at that point.
You took the Titanic and sunk.
Oh.
But I digress.
Some of us, yes.
But yeah, so they were like, we want a woman to do it now. At this point, the U.S. was really looking to break some records and make headlines. However, the one thing I didn't know when she took this flight across the Atlantic, she didn't go alone. She had a man as her she was a passenger and the man was the pilot.
So she wasn't even flying?
No.
So she was basically just there to be the woman.
The first woman.
Have been flown across.
Yep.
Okay, I thought she was flying it.
Not for this one. She was when it comes to her trip around the world, she was flying.
Okay.
But this Atlantic one, she was just a passenger and it was a male pilot.
Okay. Because they just wanted to be able to fly a female across. Yeah. Okay.
Which I thought was okay.
I mean, okay.
Your
name gets attached to a record, so.
And that's literally what it says or goes on to say. So Amelia was selected for this challenge, which was huge because they had a huge amount of women. They're like, I'll do it. I'll go. So on June 17th.
All these little housewives, aren't they afraid they gotta stay home and care for their 18 children? And
I don't know if it was open to the
dinner
general.
on the table when the husband gets home.
I don't know if it was open to the general public or
maybe
if
you
it
had to
have
a flight background or something.
I'm assuming because if it's a little prop plane and if something were to happen to the guy
you
that was
flying,
flying,
have some aspect of knowledge. But
so I'm wondering if they need to have that in there. So on June 17th of 1928.
That's the day before my birthday.
Oh my God. You keep interrupting this one fucking bullet point. I'm never going to get it done.
I'm sorry. Sorry, that was the day before my birthday and I got a little excited. Not the year, people, but definitely the day.
Now shut the fuck up until I look at you to talk.
Okay, I'm ready.
Amelia was... Oh, shit, I looked at you.
You just looked at me.
Sorry. Amelia was selected to take on this challenge. So on June 17th, 1928, Amelia would embark on her very first milestone flight. On June 18th...
My birthday!
You interrupted. She landed across the pond. I felt like that was very British of me.
Wow.
She landed across the pond and became widely famous overnight. She was making
Headlights? Were they shining headlights in her eyes?
Clearly, this podcast is gonna fucking suck. I just can't talk tonight. It's a Sunday night and I know I have to work tomorrow.
They were shining headlights in her eyes, everyone.
She
was blinded.
She made headlines across the world. Now, get this. And mind you, I guess I didn't really think technology-wise. The flight from... I want to say they took off around New York somewhere, and they went to the closest country in Europe. Took 20 hours and 40 minutes.
From New York to where?
To the first country in Europe, right across.
How many hours?
20 hours and 40 minutes.
Do we know how long that takes nowadays?
Yep, I have it in here.
Okay.
8 hours is average.
Oh my God.
So can you imagine?
Damn.
Can you go?
That's like a whole trip around the earth for us today.
I would be sitting there going, "Fuck, we're on hour 7." No. So 20
How'd they have
hours.
enough gas? They probably had the whole back filled with little cans that she's hanging out on the wing, filling the gas tank.
Yeah, no, that was. Yeah, I'm not gonna say. We're gonna reboot this part right here.
Reboot. That's my word, everyone.
Oh God, I'm stuttering up a storm. Like I said, that was her first landmark flight, and then just as a side note, she ended up marrying her press agent that made her famous with the headlines. His name is George P. Putnam. And they married in 1931.
You really like that name.
Putnam. Putnam. Nam?
Didn't even freaking pronounce it right.
I don't know.
George P. Putnam.
I just like the p sound in the mic. But yes. So they ended up marrying. Although, a whole nother conspiracy that doesn't have to do with her flying, many believe that she was a lesbian and that she was getting it on with Martha Roosevelt.
Ew,
President.
really?
I don't know if it was Martha. It was the Roosevelt's wife, whoever that was.
I think it was Martha.
Because later on in her pilot's career, she got more involved like politically and like had connections with the president. And there's a whole other conspiracy that she had a lesbian affair with.
I mean, not that I would be surprised.
Yeah, well, it was not socially acceptable then.
Correct. So you had to kind of keep it hidden.
Yeah, so sad for her, but that was another conspiracy, and I'm like, you know what?
Hashtag love is love, people.
Like, girl, if that's what makes you happy,
get it on.
Whatever flies your plane.
No.
No.
That was not good.
Should I cut that out?
I wouldn't cut it out, but that was embarrassing.
I'm not.
Whatever, we were filming, whatever flies your plane.
For those of you not being able to watch us, I put my arms out and pretend to fly because I'm a child. Yeah, that was a whole side note. So, married George. Amelia continued to break records. Not long after her flight across the pond, she also had a record-breaking flight for altitude climbing. She reached 18,415 feet.
That seems kind of high, especially for a little prop plane.
Do you want to guess what the average flight is now?
I think it's like 35,000.
31 to 38,000 feet.
I was going to say, because when we were in our plane, they tell you altitude, because I just keep my little screen on like the information page. Screw the damn movies, man.
Sammy is not fun to fly a plane with because I'll be watching a movie and be enthralled with it, and Sammy will like tap me and then point at her screen and be like, look how cold it is outside the airplane right now. Or like, it's like negative 75 degrees.
It gets so cold up at this higher altitude.
She'll do that or be like, look we're on the flight track and we're like 2,000 miles away. She loves to point that out. She will watch the airplane move like a centimeter every hour the whole flight.
Well, usually after I get like my first movie done, I just go to the flight pad.
I know. We also discovered on our last flight, I don't know if you discovered it or
games. There are games.
Oh my god,
on them.
That's exactly.
I was playing like a Can You Find It? Where they like hide stuff in the picture
like
and you gotta tap on it, and you can compete with other people on the plane.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know you were competing.
I wasn't competing against somebody, but you could. I don't know if there's people playing because it was like literally like middle of the night.
Literally,
most people were sleeping.
The person in front of you was playing.
Oh, really?
Because I was watching their screen. And I'm like, oh, they're playing the same game.
Well, I think the people behind me figured out that we could play games, so then they turned theirs on. It's a lot of fun. I didn't know there was games. Again, it might be a new thing.
The last time we took a flight was literally a year prior. It might not have been on Delta flights yet.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we've been so sidetracked.
I don't even know where we were.
We were talking about flight altitude and how you love your screen.
Yeah, the screen tells you everything, people. Check it out.
Another little side note here, she kept her maiden name. She decided not to take her husband's because she goes, I've already set records with my name. You're not taking the credit for that.
Yeah, fuck them.
So she kept Earhart. In 1932, she was determined to cross the pond on her own. She was not going to be doing it with a man in the seat.
Get it, bitch.
So, not as a passenger, on May 20th, she took off and landed a day later, being the first woman pilot to fly solo nonstop across the Atlantic. Do you want to guess how long this flight took her? I'll tell you, it's less than the first one.
Okay, so it's less than 20 hours. I'm going to say she shaved off 3 hours. That's 17 hours.
She shaved more. She flew it in 14 hours and 56 minutes.
Ooh, get it, girl.
So she did it. She cut about 5.
What the hell was that guy doing? Just slowing down?
Especially because,
seeing the sights?
Literally.
Or was it a different plane? Maybe this was a faster plane?
I think it was a different plane, but only 4 years had passed. So, technology changes, but not that quick.
My guess would be it was just a different plane, and it probably had better, prop speed.
And if I remember correctly, when she went with the man, they took a plane that could land on water in case they needed to refuel.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they ever had to refuel, but they took a plane like that, so if emergency happened.
That's gonna have some serious drag.
Yeah. So that was 1932. Okay, so those are some of her biggest accomplishments. Now we're gonna do some domestic flights and some of the accomplishments she's had just here in the U.S. You look really tired.
I know. My eyes just sometimes I swear they just get so tired.
Are you tired, or is it just your eyes?
I don't know. It's like I could probably
Do we need to stop?
No, I'm good.
Because we could just re-record this whole fucking mess.
I might just close my eyes and still respond, but I hear you.
If you hear Sammy snoring, you know why. So
just the lack of responses. We'll just have to edit in yeah, that's awesome.
It's kind of like when we were watching BuzzFeed, The Watcher on Friday.
Oh my god.
And I was sitting there and I'm like,
we both fell asleep.
I'm gonna fall asleep.
All of a sudden I rolled over. I'm like, well, she's sawing logs.
And then I would slightly wake up and be like, well, this bitch is asleep. And I'd be like, haha, isn't that funny, Sam? And then she would be not responsive. I'm like, oh, this bitch is asleep. I'm like, well, I'm going to roll over if she's sleeping. We don't sleep in the same bed. I want to make that clear.
No, we were just having a marathon.
We were watching a movie marathon, funny enough, in our mom's bed. Because we were like, oh, let's watch this. And we both passed out because teacher life is hard. After some of her bigger accomplishments across the pond, she decided to take on some challenges right here on U.S. soil. A lot of it was just cross-country flying. Also, she's known to encourage women to stand out and take risks.
Women's rights.
She was huge for that. That's
Women's rights activist.
She kind of got really, not really political, but that's when she started to take a move towards politics.
Like taking a stance.
So she encouraged women to take up careers in flying because at the time she was one of very, very few. And she was like, dude, this is awesome. She ended up creating a group for women's pilots called the 99s, and she was the president of it.
Of course she was.
Of course, because she didn't do anything half-assed.
Power-hungry bitch. I'm kidding, Amelia. We don't think that about you.
In 1933, she created her own clothing line.
For, like, flight wear?
Nope. She deemed it the clothing line for women who live actively.
Dope. Because
Like
the old Fabletics.
Because back then it was like, you can wear a dress and you can make me dinner so it's on the table when I get home. And she's like, fuck that. Let's make some clothing that like I can wear and actually be comfortable.
Dresses are comfortable.
Dresses are comfortable to an extent, but can you imagine having to like put on a freaking corset or any of that shit?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, the dresses I'm talking about are like sundresses where literally you can just like free nip it and go in. Them, they're like strapping up.
Do you remember like watching the Brady Bunch? Carol Brady was in a dress or a skirt every day and wearing heels. So by the time, what's his name? Mr. Brady? What was his name? Mike Brady. So when Mike Brady would pull in that big ass honker of a car, I'm home. She'd have dinner on the table wearing her little clickety heels, and
tonight we're having hot dogs.
Amelia was not about that life. Okay, she never served hot dogs unless they were like camping.
Bitch, let's be real. She didn't cook. Alice cooked.
The only time I recall hot dogs on that show is when they were camping in the mountains and they put beans in the flashlight.
Was that with where they went into the cave with the voodoo and then they got cursed?
No, that was the Hawaii
Ooh,
episode.
I like that episode too.
We should just have a podcast solely just to
we
the
watch
Brady
an
Bunch.
episode and talk through it.
Be like, you guys, we'll bring the Brady Bunch to the new generation.
Can you believe that?
It's so underrated. Okay, I'm almost getting through some of these bullet points before we get to Amelia's last flight.
Dope.
In 1935, she took her first ever solo flight from California to Hawaii. This being a longer distance than going over the Atlantic. So this was her longest flight she's ever done, and she's done it alone.
Okay.
This wasn't something that people really did. Getting to Hawaii was quite difficult.
That's a ways.
It's a long ways. I didn't realize it was a longer way to get to Hawaii than it was to hop the Atlantic.
Okay.
So kind of a fun fact to me. What are you fucking looking at?
I'm looking at the girls volleyball teacher staff appreciation.
Stop scrolling through your fucking email.
Well, I needed to see if I need anything for tomorrow.
The teacher life never ends. I'm over here fucking presenting my heart out, and Sammy's like, well, let's see what my email says.
Well, I need to figure out what should I be doing.
So we're getting on to Amelia's last flight here. I'm
Okay.
gonna fucking wait. She's literally typing a response to someone.
That's because one of my kids wants to know if I'll write them a letter of reference, and I will. I just need to respond, okay?
You fucking respond. I'm gonna sip my hot apple cider. I'm gonna put a little sponsorship in here. I don't have an actual sponsor that I'm being paid for, but you guys, Sammy was telling me about this about a week ago, and I didn't want to fucking believe her, but I used it for myself when I had to do something for work. Oh, I was doing like a donor's choose thing. Chat GBT.
Oh,
Holy shit.
I don't want my students using it.
No,
But
I would, yeah, if you're my students, you're never allowed to use this. If I see it pulled up on your Chromebook, I'll take your Chromebook, make you handwrite everything. But literally, I had to have a response, and I'm like, I want it to sound really professional, and I'm the type of person that's super anal about when I'm writing something out. It just bothers me if I don't word it nicely, and I'm like, I'm just going to pull this up and see how it goes. I literally typed in, like, write me this, and it pulled up, like, 10 different responses, and I'm like, I want to use all these because they're perfect.
for letter of recs, it's actually really nice
Oh my
because you can
God.
say, okay, write me a letter of recommendation for, put the name in there, and then put like qualities about them, and it literally will be like, and just shoot everything out, and you're like, this is wonderful. You can go in and like tweak it a little bit.
Yeah. I've never used it before until this week, and I'm like, oh my God.
It's the epitome of a lifesaver when it comes to stuff like that that's just tedious.
Oh, it's the best thing ever. And it, like, makes you sound so smart.
I know.
Like, if you are not in
I sound super educated.
if you're not in the headspace to write something very academic, that'll do it for you.
It's the plug.
So are you done?
I'm ready now.
Are you done
I've
responding?
put the phone away because obviously you don't like that.
You guys, she's sitting. It's like on the edge of the table. She's going to get the nervous shakes because she needs to touch it.
Oh, please. I haven't touched my... Do you want to see screen time for today?
It's probably like 2 minutes, and that was all responding to emails.
I'm at 1 hour and 3 minutes.
That's a lot for you.
That is a lot. But I also watch TikToks because it's the weekend and
Yeah.
I had some time to kill, so I pulled up TikTok.
All right. So we're on to Amelia's last flight.
'Kay.
1937 is going to roll around here, and Amelia decides to take on the biggest challenge yet. Little did she know that this record-breaking challenge was going to be her last flight. She was going to be the first woman to fly around the world. In total, it was 29,000 miles, the journey altogether.
That's a lot.
I know. She did not fly it solo. She was the head pilot, and she had a navigator named Fred Noonan.
Did she, take breaks?
Yes.
I was going to say, because you'd have to sleep.
I mean, a lot of our planes now can't go all the way around the world. They're stopping to refuel.
Well, yeah, obviously she was landing in places. I got that. I didn't expect her to be in the air for the entire trip.
So, but yes, they did take numerous breaks. Some of those breaks would be a couple days long just so they weren't in the air. And
the jet lag.
Yeah. So they embarked on June 1st and they took off from Miami. So they're in the Florida region. So throughout this journey, they had planned fuel stops and rest stops along the way because you're not going 29,000 miles and not doing that. On June 29th, Amelia had covered 22,000 miles of the trip.
That's majority of it.
So 29 days, and they covered 22 of the 29,000 miles. That's a huge amount.
That's 7,000 left.
Initially, when I was doing my research, I had thought that they had planned for 6 months for this trip.
I thought it was a really long time.
I must have misread that somewhere, but yeah, this isn't a month, less than a month, and they're way over half.
Okay.
They took off on July 2nd for the next part of this adventure. This was going to be one of the hardest sections of flying. They knew this going into it.
So was it coming from Japan over our way?
Yes, they're on the coast of Japan. They had some island stops before reaching the U.S.
All right.
And the thing is, once they got to the U.S., they still had to make stops because they had to get back to Miami where they started. The reason this next part was going to be so hard is because they were trying to locate this small island and there were tons of coral beds around it, which kind of made for false land-looking things.
Yeah, they do.
So with that being said, 2 large U.S. ships were placed in the water with very bright lights at night to hopefully help guide them to the correct destination. During this flight, Amelia was in contact with a Coast Guard ship. These were the last 2 communications. They go as follows. The first going, the plane is running out of fuel. It was dead silent then for about an hour. Then there was one more communication that says, we are running north and south. That's it.
What does that mean?
I'm assuming
they're flying from north to south
latitude and longitude. It's hopefully, it's plain talk. I'm still trying to learn that myself. But she says we're running north and south. I'm assuming latitude and longitude.
They're traveling from north to south or south to north.
Yeah. So what is believed is that her plane went down within 100 miles of the island that she was supposed to land on.
All right.
Due to the whole, if the plane was running out of fuel, they were able to kind of
get near it.
Yeah, make a prediction of where she would land. All search was performed until July 19th. So she took off on July 2nd. The search was performed till July 19th. There were other searches that went on for about a year, but a crazy detailed search until the 19th.
With everybody helping.
And then they finally called off. I want to wrap up some of that before we get into some theories. So it seems like a pretty normal story, right? Amelia Earhart, this courageous woman who's very full in adventure life. Sadly, one of her adventures didn't go so well and she's no longer alive. It's widely believed that she is sitting at the bottom of the ocean right now. Many people are content with that story, but not everyone believes that story. A lot of people have some theories. I have 5 different theories for you. And the hard part with this is when I was going through these theories, every single one of them I could believe.
It seems plausible.
The thing is, it's one conspiracy that you'll never know the answer to, but you sit here and it's any of these could have happened. And I don't think there's one that's more believable than the other.
Okay.
The first theory, obviously, is the most widely believed theory that Amelia Earhart is at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. That she's dead, that her plane crashed into the water after running out of fuel, and they assume that she would have either died on impact or she would have crashed, somehow landed the impact, and drowned as the plane took on water.
I think I'd rather die on impact.
Same. Literally same. So that's theory 1, most widely believed. Honestly, I mean, out of all ways to go, I think that'd be the quickest. Kill me on impact and have it be over with.
Did they find pieces of the plane? Oh, they didn't.
They found some debris, but they couldn't really identify it. They think it would have went to her plane, but the thing is,
because at this point, were planes still wood, or would it have been metal?
It was metal. All planes were made of some sort of metal. I don't know what kind of metal.
All right.
But yeah, it...
aluminum foil?
If she would have... No, oh my God. Yes, it was a tinfoil plane. We were just trying to make things work. There's one other theory, and I'm going to forget to say it at the end. It's the 6th one that I don't have on here. Oh my God, I do have it on here. It's number 2. That Amelia Earhart was abducted by aliens.
Aliens have to come into every conspiracy theory we talk about. I love it.
I didn't know if I actually wrote that down, and I looked down to theory 2.
I love it.
So some people assume...
That they just zooped her up?
that her aircraft was abducted due to never finding remains. Because they're like,
Okay.
well, you didn't find pieces of the plane. This is why.
I can understand that.
So, abducted by aliens, like I said, but then technology, with it not being as advanced as it is now, there's very well, her plane could be at the bottom of the ocean right now, but we didn't have the technology to search the ocean floor.
All right.
I mean, to put it into retrospect, it took 70 years to find the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
From the time it sank, 70 years later is when we finally found it.
When did Titanic sink?
I think early 1900s.
I think it was like 1960. No, because that mom would have been alive, or damn near alive.
1912.
Oh my God, that was early.
And it took 70 years. And mind you, this was 1932. We still hadn't found the Titanic. You think we're going to find an airplane at, I think it's an even deeper part of the ocean. Just wasn't going to happen.
Someone should go look.
Right? But
if anybody's in like oceanography and you need something to do, go see if you can find Amelia Earhart's plane.
My only thing with
It's
that
in the Pacific.
is how small it is. And
it's probably buried by debris now. You'd need like a metal detector or something.
Do you even think we'd find anything?
You could probably find metal.
Like the Titanic right now, they're predicting like in the next 20, it's going to be completely gone because there's an algae that's eating the metal. Like eventually you won't even be able to go to the wreckage and see it 'cause it'll be gone. So if her plane is down there, I don't know if it would still be there because it's such a smaller thing compared to the Titanic.
Yeah.
But who knows?
If we have an algae that can eat metal, how cool is that?
I don't know the name of it, but it literally, there's documentaries on it because people initially, when they discovered this algae, they're like, we are going to take the entire Titanic out of the ocean so we can save it. I'm like, leave it fucking alone.
Well, then they figured out that, if we bring it up, it's going to like dissolve.
Yeah.
There's other things.
This is literally a resting place for the dead. Leave it alone. So theory 2, aliens. We didn't have the technology to look for debris at the bottom of the ocean, so some people just assume, abduction because debris wasn't found.
Zoop her up.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that theory.
I can't. I am usually an advocate for aliens, and I don't know if I'm feeling it with this one.
Yeah.
I feel like there's other scenarios that are going to be much more plausible.
Especially because I think it's my next theory right here. It is. Some people heard radio transmissions after she went down. And, like, across the U.S., which makes me go, okay, aliens didn't abduct her because this was like I'll tell you the things here. So theory 3 is probably the most widely believed conspiracy other than crashing into the ocean. That Amelia and Noonan crash landed on Gardner Island. Gardner Island. The island could have been a possible landing area for Amelia due to where she was talking about running out of fuel and being able to find this next island. This wasn't the island she was supposed to land on, though. It would have been within that range with the little gas that she had left. It's believed that the two did everything they could with what they had to survive on this island. We did eventually search this island, but it took until 1940 for us to go, oh my God, she could have landed here. And there were things found on this island. So there were human remains found laying under a tree. However, they were badly damaged due to coconut crabs chewing on them.
Have you seen a coconut crab?
Fucking terrifying.
They're huge.
And like
they're like the size of a dog.
They literally look like a spider almost.
Yeah.
They're
huge. Called coconut crabs because their claws can crack a coconut.
Exactly. So the human remains were very badly damaged, but it did kind of look as if there would have been 2 humans. And some of the other things that we found on this island kind of led us to believe that it could have been Amelia and Noonan.
Bro, can you imagine being her? Pulling up on this island and then seeing these ginormous ass crustaceans trying to kill you.
The thing is, eventually she would have died from starvation. They probably could have fought them off for a while and they would have been fine.
Well, they're pretty docile.
Yeah.
It's like they're like opportunistic feeders. If it's there, they'll eat it.
Yeah, so it sounds like they died and eventually the crabs were just like, food. So, it did look like there were some like scraps of like fabric that were found, and I'll get to it a little bit later. There were a couple other things found on the island. However, many people claim that they heard distress calls from Amelia and Noonan from Gardner Island coming through her plane's radio system. Some of the transmissions were as follows. We'll have to get out of here is the first one and people heard this across the U.S. because at this point
they were close enough for our radio signals to pick up on.
Close enough for the radio signal, and there was already talk of Amelia Earhart has gone missing. Like, it was starting to spread that her plane likely went down. So people were flocking to the radio because they're like, what is going on? So that was one of the transmissions. Another one is, we can't stay here long, leading us to believe that they crash landed somewhere and they're going, we can't stay here. This isn't plausible. And then the third one that only a couple people heard, and I want to say it was only heard in Tennessee, is we have taken in water. We can't hold on much longer. That kind of led some people to go, did they make it to an island or did they crash in water, live through the impact, and were using the radio as like a last call?
Okay.
And they couldn't get out of the plane.
Were these all within like 5 minutes?
It was like a time range of a day after the crash.
Okay.
It is thought that they only had the radio during specific hours due to high tide and not wanting to flood their engine in the plane. So it is thought that the plane crash landed into a coral bed near the island, and that they would run out to the plane when the low tide was in, and they could get to the plane. But then the second that they saw the water rising, they're like, get the fuck out and get back to the island.
Yeah, you got to get back, otherwise you're going to get sucked right out.
And that's why the transmissions were so patchy, because like we have to get out of here, that one came, and hours, like 6, 7, 8 hours later, the next one came. On the day of the disappearance, the woman in the U.S. claims that she heard a distress call saying KHAQQ calling. I don't know what that stands for. I don't understand the letters. And I didn't find anything when I Googled it, but that was the first part of the message. And then there was a long pause, and it goes, on or near a little island at a point near. And that's the only distress.
So it's like it was really patchy.
It was really patchy, and only one person heard it. But then it was followed by, a little bit later, something about a storm and that the wind was blowing. Literally, that's how it's phrased. It makes no sense.
Okay.
Something about a storm and that the wind was blowing. Some of the other things that were identified on Gardner Island was a woman's compact, so like a little mirror, a bottle.
They were probably trying to use it to flash stuff.
Something. A bottle with a certain ointment that was used to reduce freckles on a woman's face. And this appears in many photos. You see it in the pocket of her breast. So like she was wearing a shirt that had 2 pockets. You could actually see the bottle in her pocket. So a lot of people are like,
that's a telltale sign.
like, we see it. It's right there. And then reports vary on some say that they found like a plane radio on the island. Like they removed it from the plane.
Okay.
But that varies on reports. Some people are like, yeah, we found this there. And then some people are like, nope, we have no idea what you're even talking about.
Okay.
So like kind of covering it up. So that's theory number 3. Theory number 4 and 5 kind of go together a little bit, but I'm going to present 4 separate from 5 to start. Amelia didn't make it too far off the coast of Japan and crash landed on a little island there. When she landed on this island, the rumor is that Japan thought she was a spy for President Roosevelt, that she was under his order. This was during a very difficult time in history because war was breaking out. We didn't necessarily get along with Japan. And if Japan seriously thought that Roosevelt had sent over a spy to look into how they were living in their government, they wouldn't be happy with that. Why would you want a spy coming in?
You'd basically put a big red X on your head.
Yeah. Or some people think that Amelia and Noonan were captured by Japanese military and held captive in camps for years and tortured.
God.
Some even say that there is picture evidence. I didn't find super clear pictures,
Okay.
but evidence, like pictures taken of her over in Japan and like torture camps, and apparently there are evidence out there somewhere. But that kind of ties into theory 5. So the final theory connects very strongly. It follows a story that they were captured by Japanese military. However, instead of them dying in these camps, the U.S. Special Forces returned them to the United States, and she lived out her life in the Witness Protection Program under an alias, Irene Bowman. She ended up living out her life in New Jersey, remarried, started a completely new life, and she lived as a housewife. I've looked at pictures. I should have put one on here for you to look at. It looks identical to her.
Really?
So some say that she was saved from this camp, that somehow Roosevelt was willing to negotiate just to get her back here safely, and that like they married her off when she got here. This was her new name.
What about Fred?
Oh, Noonan. Nothing came of Noonan.
Poor
so
buddy.
I don't know if at that point Noonan was gone, or they were
Okay.
like, we just need to get Amelia because she was the first woman to do all this shit for us. And they're
Okay.
like, we need to save her. So that's the 5th and final theory, that
Well,
she was
and-
rescued.
And Japan might have used her as like a bargaining token of like, hey, we have her.
Mm-hmm.
If you just tell us these 3 things, we'll give her back to you.
Yeah.
And
so,
Fred might have been long gone by then, or they didn't care enough to offer
get
him
Fred.
with them.
So, like I said, all very possible theories. I don't know if there's one.
I lean more towards the theory where he is, or not he, where Fred and Amelia land on the island or land
Yeah.
near the island.
Mhm.
The fact that they found like shoes, they found her little ointment thing, they found bones with
compact.
possibly 2 things. The compact would make sense because you're going to use a mirror to try and signal people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that stuff makes sense to me.
And that some reports even go to say like a radio was found, and that there were radio communications that saying like, we have to get out of here, we can't stay here long. The one communication even said we're taking on water. So I would lean heavily towards theory 3 of like they crash landed and did survive.
Well, and my thing is the reason I don't necessarily always lean towards the first one where like, okay, they crashed and like died on impact or
Yeah.
drowned is because those radio signals came in
Yes.
after the fact.
Yup.
So even if they let's say they did crash in the water. They would have had to survive, and then maybe those radio things came in of like, okay, we can't stay here long, we got to get out of here. Like, those could make sense of like crashing in the water and they got to get out.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the island sounds so much more plausible. The fact that they found that stuff and it was literally in her pocket.
Yeah.
Like, that's the telltale sign to me of like, okay, they at least made it there. I don't necessarily think that Japan captured them.
I hope not. That's such a sad way to
I mean,
go out.
I like the idea that she lived out the rest of her life and was able to like have a family and kids and all that.
Yeah.
But I just don't necessarily think that that is what happened.
I feel like if we were able to rescue Amelia Earhart, that would have made headlines.
Correct.
At that
she would have been like a martyr.
My thing is like, why would you even hide the fact that you rescued her? I'd have been like, holy shit, we rescued Amelia Earhart from a camp. Like, she's coming home.
Unless that was like part of their thing with Japan, as they had to keep it.
Oh, like, hey, we don't want you telling people that we are letting you have her.
That, or maybe it would have put like a target on her.
Yeah.
Of her now. Oh, she's back, and this is where she lives, and.
I mean, personally, me, if I was Amelia, I'd want Theory 1 to be true, where I freaking die on impact in the water.
Because to starve on an island would be so much worse.
And I can only imagine you land on this island, and I would assume her and Noonan got together and they were friends enough that they did this journey together. But I think that I would just be so upset that I landed here and you're going to die.
My thing is, so how far away was this island from where she was originally planned to land?
I want to say it was within 100 miles.
When they were searching for 20 days...
That's what I'd like to know.
Did they not travel that many... Because I would have said, okay, like, what other places are in the vicinity? Could they have possibly landed here?
That's what was really frustrating to me.
And there was the 2 Coast Guard ships out there when this happened. You can't tell me they didn't hear, see, something.
Yeah, and mind you, those ships were out there. They also deployed tons more ships because they're like, we need to search.
And I mean, it's not like this is a negative for our country because it was like something that was like, oh my gosh, she's an American citizen. She's doing this all the way around the world. It would have been such a heroic thing for us if she would have actually made it back. Yes, it was a heroic thing because like she was an American and she was doing it.
And a woman.
But the fact that yes, there was controversy that, okay, she didn't make it and then we got publicity from that, but it wasn't, I would say, popular publicity or good publicity. It was like, oh, what a tragedy.
Yeah. So, like I said, I would be like, kill me on impact. I don't want to live through this. I think if I was on this island with another person, your emotions are going to be so high as it is that
and both of you are going to be.
I'm just going to be so pissed at this person because how do you even begin to save yourself? You're not swimming. Like,
not that far.
You're not getting back to land.
You can only kill so many coconut crabs if you don't have a knife or something.
It's just upsetting. And the thing is, even if you're able to use
that. And there's no water filtration. And
so you're drinking
salt water.
They probably
didn't have a pot to cook stuff.
You don't have a heat unless you're creating fire. But then again,
if she had a mirror, she could make fire.
I don't know. But how easy is that?
It'd be tough. And if she didn't have like survival training, it would be very tough.
And at that point, why would she need survival training? Yeah. Like, it's just upsetting to think about. I'd like to lean towards Theory 3 that maybe she did survive for a little bit.
I think it's Theory 3.
But I'm also like, God, let her die on impact.
The tuba stuff there is the telltale sign for me. She was there.
That was the one thing I found interesting, that there's like pictures of like, oh my God, it was in her pocket. Like, you could see it. And then the same thing, because they ended up doing a chemical analysis to determine what it was because the label was worn off.
Yeah, it was because it was like a year later that they actually figured out.
I think it was like 3 years later.
Was it that long?
It was a while because they didn't look at this island until 1940. I think this flight was 1932, 1937. So 3 years later.
3.
But yeah, I'm just like, it's just sad. The whole thing is sad.
Yeah.
But so tell us what you guys think. Leave some comments below. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Like us on Facebook and Instagram at Conspiracy Podcast 1. And remember to tune in for next week's episode on Wednesday. We'll see you then, guys.
Bye, guys.